Talkness Monster podcast.
I think we're live, right?
We are live.
Welcome to the Talkness Monster podcast. For the listeners, listen up, and for the visual people, keep your eyes on the screen because we have
Jerome Grant.
Jerome Grant.
Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, you are. Just a little background. Can you just give us just a little background on yourself?
Oh, let's see. Say for the maybe the last real whirlwind trip over the last 30 years, how I ended up in Lincoln County, say?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Why not?
30 some odd years ago, I got involved with a unique fishery. It was a sea urchin, and you, in order to harvest sea urchin, you go down in person on the bottom and pick them and haul them up.
How deep are you going when you do that?
My average depth over a 15-year career was probably 55 feet.
You're well under there. And that's on the Oregon coast, right?
Mostly on the Oregon coast. I also dove in the Straits of Juan de Fuca and San Juan Islands for 5 years during the winter times.
And so you're 55 feet down, but it's like visibility of what?
Probably average visibility over my career in Oregon anyway was 8 feet, 9 feet.
Wow. Yeah. And that's average, right? So you're gonna a decent day's actually I feel like 8 feet, because I have a little ROV I'll take down there, and sometimes it's like 4 or 5 or 4 or less.
It can be, yes. And then there's those days in the wintertime where you get an occasional. I've been down 70, 80 feet and been able to look up and see the bottom of the boat crystal clear. So I would figure that the visibility was around 100 feet. But those were rare days and usually occurred during the winter. Yeah.
Oh, that's primo. So you did that. You how long did you do that for?
15 years.
So you're like a, what do they call that? All the way experienced at scuba diving.
A journeyman. Well, and I dove a little before I started in harvesting for sea urchin commercially. You see these, this dating back to 1980. I throw these dates out there, and I think to myself, when somebody starts doing that, and it's before I'm born, it's like I'm disconnected from what they're saying. But 1980, let's zoom ahead now. You see the gold rush programs on Discovery. So 1980 was the first time gold shot up to $1,000, close to $1,000 an ounce.
Yeah.
And I'm a kind of an independent kind of guy, and so I just I thought I quit a good job and went gold mining.
Yeah. Yeah.
And dove for gold along the Oregon coast and different places in Oregon. Did okay.
You dove for gold.
Huh?
You dove.
Yeah, I ran a dredge just like they do on Bering Sea Gold.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy. But you're deeping like on the ocean?
No, in this case in rivers in Oregon.
Oh,
yeah.
Like Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I was thinking I was like because my grandfather's done some of that. Not dive. He didn't dive at all, but they would dredge for it, probably in shallower streams.
Oh, it was a hoot, until the price of gold went down to $300 an ounce, and I went broke.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I hit a couple spots that just dumb luck that one in about 4 or 5 days I took a couple pounds of gold out, and then there were other places that when you hit the bottom and you can see it just lined in the cracks, you get bit. To this day I own some claims up there in Southern Oregon. Yeah, about 6 of them.
I actually want to come back to that. I want to talk a little bit more about some precious metals, but I just, I get so excited.
Okay, so I started diving and I for sea urchin, And a lot of the guys, most of the guys that I started with were up from California, and probably a half a dozen were former Navy SEALs from the Vietnam era. Some really hardcore guys, great guys to be around. And anyway, to zoom back out in the process of my career, I did around 2,000 days at sea and about 10,000 hours of bottom time and something over 1 million pounds of personal production in it. And anyway, I came up here to open up this ground up here with a couple boats, formed a market, went up to Depoe Bay, got the fish plant opened up there, and that was in 1990. And I had surveyed up here already 2 years previously. And so did really well. It was crazy. We did like 3 million pounds right out in front of Depoe Bay, the fleet. It was a carpet of sea urchins. Anyway, so the following year in '91, I came back up with a dive partner of mine, and we worked. And I was in Gracies Sea Hag there, and there was a bartender there a young gal, 20s. Of course, I was young back then too. and I thought, man, she is so attractive. I'll never stand a chance with her.
Yeah.
But I had to try. So I overtipped her for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and she would never look me in the eyes. She was very modest. And then finally I was leaving one day, and I noticed she had a new perm in her hair. And I was cashing out, and she was just coming on duty. And I said, hey. And finally she looked at me, and our eyes met. I said, nice do. Broke the ice. And we've been together ever since. I took her over to the French Riviera for a month, and that was a test. If you can be with somebody for a month in their face and still get along a little, you're doing well, at first.
Yeah.
Until you get used to each other. So, yeah, that's my wife, Clary, and we've been together ever since.
So, what would you say the hardest part of being married is?
Oh. Well, I've been married 3 times.
Uh-huh.
To Clary for 31 years.
Wow.
But I would say I think there's a point where you have to make a commitment that this is the person that you're going to be with, and no matter what the issue is, you're going to work it out. Of course, it takes 2 to do that, but I think from a man's standpoint, you have to retreat and be humble at times.
Yeah, okay. I think I need to do that a little more. I mean, with my girlfriend, sometimes I'm just like, it's so easy to get really hard-headed, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah, I've been there, I'm still there at times. I mean, maybe every morning I am. I don't know. So it's so that's and then just be willing to just say, I'm not going anywhere. You're my partner, and what would you like me to do? What do you want?
Yeah.
But then, I think it's important. I think a really great book, and that involves, it's got some great passages on relationships, was The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of that. I've not read it.
Well, when I was a kid, by kid I mean, in my 20s and late teens, it was one of those books, and it was written in the 40s, I think, and a Lebanese gentleman, kind of non-denominational type a book of wisdom, and he goes into some ideas about relationships. It's not good to be in each other's faces all the time. Have your own friends, basically.
Yeah.
And be able to spend time apart and come back together. I think that's all important. And then, encourage your partner to bloom, to be all that they can be.
Yeah. So, which is funny because back then, right, Clary where you say she was a bartender.
She was a bartender at Gracie's, yeah, and she was fresh up. She grew up in her youth in Siletz, but then at 15 she went. Her mother and father had divorced, and her mother moved down to New Orleans. She went to live with her mother, and so she spent 10 years down there, graduated from high school there. And her last job before coming to Oregon, where I met her at Gracie's, she was 25, was at Pat O'Brien's on Bourbon Street. That brags that they sell more liquor per square foot than anywhere else in the world.
What? I've never heard of that.
Oh, yeah. It's home of the Hurricane, real famous bar.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then she took me down to New Orleans. I haven't been down there since Katrina, so I went down there before Katrina. It was a hoot. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to check it out. I've heard really good things about New Orleans.
You just kind of got to be a little bit careful, but of course, in any city now, I mean, it's gotten so, and it always was, but it's just worse lately. That you've got to keep your radar up.
Yeah, we just had this crazy drunk guy like sleeping with his legs out in the middle of the street, just
here?
outside the News Times building here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if somebody wasn't looking, they would have just ran his legs over.
Yeah. Yeah. That's and that would have been unfortunate.
Well, we're the news. We would have been right there. Well.
So anyway, I lived down in Southern Oregon at the time, and then wife wanted to Port Orford, wanted to move back up to be next to her dad.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved up to here and bought a place in Siletz, lived there for 17 years. Clary ended up going back to work for Gracie. And then I was in the late 90s. I ended up, because I didn't know how long my body was going to last for diving.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to school, finished a degree here to transfer at Oregon Coast Community College. Kudos out to Dan Rumagoo, Dr. Rumagoo, whose wife also served as mayor here in Newport.
Oh, really?
Yes. Who was the head of the math department there. So I transferred over to Western Oregon University and was an older learner and finished a degree in computer science there, and did graduate work in economics. And then still dove along the way part-time. But anyway, we had Gracie wanted to retire. We had an opportunity to buy the Sea Hag.
Yeah.
And but it was more than I had.
Yeah.
So I was able to. Every bank in Oregon turned me down.
Yeah.
No.
Uh-huh.
And then I got a lead through B of A to a lender on the East Coast, an SBA lender, and. So worked with a broker, was able to set up a deal, and then a partner of mine, the guy that I was with when I met my wife in 1991, I told him about what was going on. Never said anything. He said, I'm all in. He gave me his life savings.
Wow.
Which was we needed down, and with ours, which was equal portions, we. Had the cash to go in, and the SBA picked up the rest of the cost of the Sea Hag and all the real properties there. So that's how I got there. And
what a friend!
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'd give my life savings to any asshole.
Well, then I thought it was unusual at the time, but then later people say, "Yeah, that's just the way Steve is." A good guy, silent partner. Him and his wife actually bought the place. Clary and I's place out in Siletz. That's where they live now.
Yeah.
And he vacations down in Mexico for a month at a time. So it's all been a blessing for the two families. Yeah. And Clary and I have run it well for the last, now this will be, let's see, 16. We bought it and closed in June of 2006. And so now it's, what, 22, no, I mean 16 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're doing something right. I've stayed in Depoe Bay. It's a great little close to kind of Newport Toledo place that's far enough but close enough to go and hang out, and you're not, it's different enough.
Where's Depoe Bay?
Yeah, Depoe Bay. And
it's unique. It is. I mean, I spent, like I said, a lot of time on the ocean side of the Oregon coast, and Depoe Bay is. It's one of a kind. The one thing which drew me up here, and what draws the whales in here, why they have such an industry up in Depoe Bay, is most people don't know. It's because of it's all reef there. It's all hard rock coastline, rock reef.
Yeah.
Amongst all the rockfish, which are plentiful along that area, from Yaquina Head all the way north to Cascade Head. It's a broken reef all the way, with some beaches in between. But around Depoe Bay, as you've seen, it's a rocky coastline, and the little fish and little animals that whales feed on do not lay their eggs and hatch in sand. They do it in rock.
Okay. Yeah.
And so during the season when they're there, that's why they're in so close. They're feeding.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the spring and throughout the summer, these the tiny little mycelium, the shrimp, and other little animals. They're somewhat discretionary, but I think the whales. But clouds, you can't. I mean, the water is clear in the spring and a lot of times, in the summer. But there's so many animals hatching that it's cloudy, and that's why the whales are sucked in to Depoe Bay and around there because of the feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that makes it unique.
So you, actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you thought was unique about Depoe Bay, and you just kind of walk right into it.
Well, can I tell you my close encounter of the third kind with gray whale?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I'm really fond of the animals. I think, even you probably may have heard this. One of the few creatures mentioned by name in the creation account in Genesis, the leviathans of the sea, so to speak. But anyway, I was down off southern Oregon, where most of the industry was, Port Orford Reef, which is this tremendous resource and incredible spot on the Oregon coast. There's probably 2,000 or 3,000 acres of diveable reef there. Sits about 3 miles offshore, and islands, rock islands there. And there was a pod of gray whales there on the reef, and the guys were talking. Oh, they're so friendly. They're coming up next to the boat. They're doing things. Reproducing using our anchor as a hold on.
Oh, wow!
Really? No, come on, guys. Anyway, I just kind of really almost didn't believe it. But then I had my crew out, 2 other guys, another diver, and my deckhand, and the boat that I had, this little Radcraft, it's custom designed for diving. You can just step off the boat. It's like a surfboard practically, right into the water. Anyway, I saw a gray whale in front of us, and I'm very cautious around him. I don't want to scare him or hurt him or hurt us. So I threw the boat out of gear and went adrift. And the whale came up to our boat and went perpendicular with his mouth under the boat like this. and then surfaced, and all three of us looked over at the same time, and his blowhole was right there, and when he surfaced, and it blew whale snot all over, and just foul smelling.
Oh, man.
Over all of us, and whoa. And I thought to myself, well, I'd like to get into the water with this animal, so I started putting him on my fins, and I regret this to this day.
You got in the water with it?
No, I didn't have time. I was getting putting my fins on, my mask, and I was going to maybe get some air instead of free dive. And it just sat there. And my deckhand and my other diver said, Jerome, I think it wants us to touch it. Can we touch it? Oh. And I said, why not? And so they reached down and touched this gray whale. And this was the special part. As they were petting it, they said, Jerome, its skin is rippling underneath our touch.
Whoa.
It feels every bit of it, and it's moving and like acknowledging that we're petting it.
Yeah.
And I never got to. But they did, and I thought it was real special. And by the time I was ready to go, that whale just changed its buoyancy and went straight down out of sight. Never saw it again.
Okay. Yeah. I feel the same way with like, should I get a shot with my cell phone or should I run and grab the camera? And you run and grab the camera and you lose your opportunity or whatever. But when it blew the snot, it blew. Everybody got it on.
Everybody got it all
covered.
over.
It was,
it was dripping off of us.
Oh man.
Yeah, apparently down in the Grace, they'll go up and calf down in the Sea of Cortez, in Mexico, and I guess but they don't feed down there at all, and their breath does not smell. But up here now, they feed, and it's like fermented
fish. Yeah. I saw a pretty good sized gray whale, just by Quarry Cove, down at the Aquina Head. Kind of that you drive down. I think that's Quarry Cove, and I got a killer shot of it. But it was close enough. It was like from me to you, except for you were down a little bit lower.
Right.
I could have jumped on its back.
Not recommended, but yeah.
I mean, like that, but the opportunity was there.
Right. That's cool.
I don't know if I would ever recommend doing that because they say, oh, it's so big, one movement of its tail could kill you, or, and I'm like, would it be like pissed, if I jumped on its back?
Well, I think it's I think that whale that let my crew touch it that day and nestled itself against my boat.
Yeah.
Had human contact before.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, the diver that was on board my boat that day was up, and he was with another diver out of Depoe Bay later on that same year, during the summer, because we'd come up here during the summer to dive.
Yeah.
And they were right out in front of Depoe Bay. Then there was a mother and its calf right out front there.
Yeah.
And they were on wave runners. And Mike, the guy that was on my boat, because he'd had this experience that was everything was Jake, so to speak,
Yeah.
He went over to him and he touched the calf, and he should not have done that.
Oh.
Mother got mad and started boiling the water around him,
Oh, that's
going
sketch.
Around. Yeah. He knew he'd made a mistake. As soon as he did it, some whales have had human contact more, and others haven't, and would take it as a threat. So
I never thought about that. Like, it's kind of like it's in the wildlife. It wants to protect its baby, right?
Yeah.
And so, how does that the bubbling of the water around?
Well,
they
went around. I mean, circled, and it was, and
is it just to freak him out, or is it like make him lose buoyancy so he might sink?
No, he was. They got out of it. They were on wave runners and they jetted out of it.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, they were able to escape, and the people on shore reported them to the Coast Guard that they were riding whales down there.
Riding whales.
They were trying to get away from it at that point. So anyway, that's and so moved up here, and then later on, after we bought Gracie's, and then a few years later in 2016, we bought the old Spouting Horn building, and we renovated it from the foundation on up through the frames and just about everything. Have you been there?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Horn.
Yeah.
Oh man, here's the thing. Every time I go to Depoe Bay, Gracies Sea Hag is so packed I can't get in, and I'm not gonna wait. So I go to the Horn because it's like a reasonable wait if there's a wait.
Right.
And it's like really nice. It's like much nicer and newer than Gracie's, but Gracie's is like it's got a lot of that sea crust that makes the coast so great.
Yeah, we got a little there in the Horn though too. It was a work of love for me, and I did most of all the sourcing of everything. I ended up because the project manager from the contractor that did the work, he got sick, and so I stepped in, and I was basically a project manager. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have like your tabletops are made of this nice. If I remember correctly, aren't they made of nice wood? Like you have these nice
vertical. All the tables in the Horn are made out of vertical grain East Coast yellow pine.
Okay, I was thinking there was like really nice.
They're reclaimed bowling alley.
Oh, is that what that is? Wait a second, like the part the bowling balls go on?
That's correct. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take a better look at that next time.
I just had a notion, and so I found a guy over in Wilsonville that he reclaimed them.
Yeah.
And they don't build bowling alleys with wooden alleys anymore. They're all have got a composition coating on top, yeah.
Is it kind of like fake wood on top?
Yeah.
So it looks like it?
Yes.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because really, bowling alley, these alleys, and I'm no expert bowler, but they develop a character all of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hence, expert bowlers, I'm sure, kind of don't like that. But so anyway, they switched to that, and so this gentleman, I bought quite a few slabs of the yellow pine, and then I bought the long bar up top on the second floor is made out of.
Do you have pictures of it online?
Yeah, I have to.
Is it just like on the website or something?
And not detailed like that. You got to come to the Horn.
Okay, yeah, you got to come to the Horn. Because Dayton could definitely look it up.
But the bar upstairs is, and both are the bars. The wood of the bar is special. The one upstairs is the hard rock maple on the lane heads. Mm-hmm. Okay, where the ball actually hits, it's hard rock maple. And so it's got all the inlays of the darts and the dots. Two of them are joined together to form the 34-foot bar upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, the upstairs is exceptionally nice. I like all of it. But the downstairs, you can look into the bay a little bit better. That's kind of cool.
Oh, the bay, yeah. Yeah, you can from upstairs too. It's just another 10 feet higher.
I don't know if I've ever sat. I don't know why. I guess I usually end up downstairs on right there, but upstairs a couple of times. I don't know. I just love it. And you guys had this. You had this because you brew beer there.
Yes, we've got a 10-barrel brewery there. Yeah,
Oh,
nobody can see it, but if you have I walked you through the?
Oh yeah, I've gotten a tour.
Okay.
Yeah, it's excellent.
So, it's kind of out of sight, but we have. Let's see, we've got like 100. We don't merchandise it out in the storefronts, but we've got about 100 taps around Lincoln County, and a little bit farther south, we do Florence. We've got a couple of accounts down there that love our beer.
That's great.
Yeah.
You had this Scotch ale once. It was a small batch.
Yes.
That was
one of a kind. That was a one-off.
So good.
Really?
It was.
We
so
could
good.
do that again.
It was so good. So they have a grocery because I always get my a lot of my stuff at grocery outlets right across the street. They have what is it called? Old Chub. It's a Scotch ale.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty good. I mean, but yours is just like.
Well, I'll have to tell my brewer to do it. We'll do a seasonal.
Oh man, the Scotch ale was so good.
So shall we have? I've got this right here now. I brought a quart now of the. I like stouts. I like some of the darker beers because of the complexity of the taste. But IPAs have that same complexity. But my first brewer, he liked to, as far as stout goes, did a Russian Imperial Stout, which the IBVs, in other words, the percentage alcohol, they're way up there, like 10%. You drink one, you're done.
Good.
Yeah. And like Guinness is only, I think it's 5.6, something like
Yeah,
like
for a
there,
dark beer, it's pretty low.
Yeah, but great taste. And so I told my brewer, I want you to brew an Irish stout. So we have this Harry Allen Stout, which was my first skipper, former Coast Guardsman, first generation Irishman. I mean, Irish American. His parents were both from Ireland. Grew up in Philly.
Yeah.
And one of the highest producing urchin divers in the history of the fishery. But he was my first real skipper. I remember the first time he took off his shirt when he was getting dressed to dive, and I saw that shamrock on his shoulder, and I wasn't sure whether that was a birthmark or a tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
He's Irish to the bone. As a matter of fact, Harry went back to Ireland and bought part of his family's farm that they left when they came to America.
Oh, that's killer.
So we developed this Irish stout. My brewer did.
Yeah.
Brian Harder, and so we import the grain from Ireland. So let's see if I can pour a little for us. Yeah.
Excellent.
I like a little head. That's not a joke.
Oh, you'd like a little bit of head. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Now this is the Irish.
This is the Irish stout.
Man, this guy knows what he's doing.
Well, Brian, yeah, he does. He's good.
I really refined beer. Like, I like those small batches too, where you kind of like, I want to make it really good, and they kind of know how to do it. Because I've been making cider, and it's just like, there's a lot more detail to it if you want there to be.
Well, yeah.
If you want to make the flavors more complex and all this other things, and it's just like, oh man.
I remember some things stick out in your head from people teachers and people that you meet in your life, and had this awesome computer science teacher over in he's since passed over in at Western in Monmouth there, and I can remember the one of the first principles he said how did he put it? He said the biggest mistake anybody makes when approaching a problem is underestimating the complexity of it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. This is so good. God, it's just like, some of them have a little bit of like kind of dryness after. It's like, it's hard to explain it, but this doesn't. It kind of rounds it off, and in this nice way.
It's a good beer. It's not overly heavy.
Yeah.
The looks can be deceiving because it's that dark, stout-looking beer. But taste is relatively complex, but not overly. I think it's 5.8.
Really,
ABV.
That's not too bad at all.
No, you can drink more than one.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed at some breweries now you can't order one of those heavy stouts or IPAs in a 12 ounce. No, a pint. They'll give you a 10 or 12 ounce instead.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not here so I can drink that much. I need the whole thing. This is a good time.
Well, and we sell those 12 ounce pours too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But our regular glasses of beer, we don't sell pints. Those are English Nonics. They're actually 19 ounce glasses. So when you drink one of our beers, you get
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
A real beer, yeah.
Yeah, we stayed at the Channel House once.
Yeah,
and then we just came down from there. It's so cool, and they have this old ship's compass thing in there. And it's like super cool, and like the stormy night, awesome time.
Right.
Beautiful sunset, awesome time. Doesn't matter.
No, it's a great place. It really is.
So, do you have a degree in? Your degree is partially in economics, or?
No, it was my minor.
It was your minor. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Because it was Monmouth, Western Oregon. It's a small university.
Yeah.
So some classes that they only offer them once a year.
Yeah.
So you have to wait for it to come up, and so I was filling in. When you get towards the end of your college career, this often happens, depending upon what school you're at.
Yeah.
Is you have to wait for these classes to come up to fulfill the requirements for the degree. And so I was waiting for, for the last of my courses. I was finished with everything else and more with my minor and everything by the first quarter of that year. But I had to wait an additional couple of semesters to get the classes that I needed to meet the requirements. And so I had a passion for economics, so I went ahead and started taking, and I had already fulfilled all the minor requirements for it, so I started taking some graduate work classes in econ.
Yeah.
Report writing and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had a little bit of a background though like that. I figured you had some kind of broad education because you're one of those guys that I feel like knows a lot of shit, for lack of a better word. And I just and so when like when you look at the world right now and everything that's going, it's like I want to talk to people like you. I want to see what you think, what's going on.
Well, I've got an opinion just about everything.
I know, love it, love opinions. I had but yeah, so as far as and this is gonna jump really big all of a sudden.
Sure, go ahead.
But
go ahead.
The economic state of everything right now, and this is tied in with
sure.
precious metals and all that, and money and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm just sitting here trying to just be open to what's happening, but kind of be a little bit further ahead than I have in the past, where it's like didn't see it coming, happens, and then I saw it coming a while after the fact, and now it's I feel like when you're a little smarter, a little more paying attention, a little more with it, you kind of you see it as it happens, or you kind of almost see it just before it happens, so maybe you can react. So if the economy crashes, which I feel like it might be about to just, I don't know, some people think, oh, it's fine, housing market's fine, everything's cool, and then a month later maybe not, and then I'm well, I kind of felt like it wasn't to begin with, but I don't know. I mean, when you're a real estate, you're an agent, it seems like they're a little biased to the positive. I don't know.
Well, I think that if you're a stockbroker, you're a little biased to, the market's going to come back.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever you have to sell, I think that it's part of sales. But I would say, and I drew a word picture just, recently. I mean, I've been around for a while, and I've seen downturns in the economy, okay? And spent a lot of time thinking about why, and the last downturn was 07, 08, and then they had what they, named the Great Recession. Okay?
I thought that name was kind of silly.
Yeah. And that was a relatively complex set of issues that broke the economy. But a bellwether on that whole process, because I was managing the Hag, and was when the price of gas went over $5 a gallon, when it hit $5 in 2008.
Yeah,
and it just seems the economy broke at that point.
Dude, I paid $5.49 yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, and there's lots more that higher prices depending on.
An interesting book you could probably reach back was from a futurist that I read, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it was called. But for you and what you're doing, it might be poignant for you. It was the name of the title was "The Medium is the Message." Okay, it was by a cat named Marshall McLuhan.
Okay. I'm going to take a note of that. The medium.
Let me write that down too after the podcast, Casey.
I mean, like, there's so many books on this kind of stuff, and it's like, I don't.
He was one of the. This guy was. This cat was huge back with the people that in the early 70s. Yeah, 72, I think when it came out, and he predicted just so many things that are happening now. And one of the things that he said, look at in the future. It's really that way now, but it'll become more apparent as we go through the decades. He says, forget the dollar, forget gold, forget everything. Really, he said the currency of the future is going to be energy.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. That's making me think a little. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So and whatever that is. I mean, we've got. They're trying to move us towards this, so-called green economy. There's to do that is so complex. I mean, I figure that being as clean as possible with fossil fuels is like a bridge.
Yeah.
And to discount that bridge, as long as it exists to the future, where we'll be able to get there, with very low emissions.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, let's stay warm during the winter and cool during the summers.
Yeah.
And eat. So it's I think that I don't think I see anything. I think it's really a gift from God. To have this fuel that we can take advantage of in the next 2 or 3 decades till we reach a place that new technologies will arise. They're already here, hydrogen, and some other things, but
I thought we've had hydrogen power for vehicles for a while.
They just discounted it, and now they may be coming back to it. It's just one thing that I just have to absolutely scratch my head on is at least right now, all the EVs out there, electric vehicles, they don't pay gas tax. How are we going to maintain the roads when everything goes electric? Okay, it's going to be, that alone is going to be a monumental task, and gone for you and me, and if I'm still alive by then. Is being anonymous and going where you want to go without somebody knowing where you are at any given time if you're in a vehicle. Because really the only practical way I could see taxing somebody, especially from state to state, is to track all their moves and tax them based upon where they're at. And they're not doing that right now.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird one. And I did hear they were considering putting a tax somehow. I don't know how they were doing that, but like it kind of disincentivizes you to buy an electric car, because you're getting out of that tax. You're getting out of
right.
But at the same time, I see what you're saying. You need to pay for the roads, but I still think, and this is a little bit of a funny one, but I still think we need hover cars. Oh,
I would love hover cars. I mean, as I was sitting in grade school, I was drawing pictures of that stuff.
Can I get a little more of this?
Of course. No, I brought the.
Sweet. This is good.
And you can keep that and put it on your shelf.
Well, thanks.
Come up and fill it up again.
This is a killer growler, man. I've never seen one quite like it.
Yeah, they ran out of the regular ones, and they said, we got these different style of 32 ounces. And I said, well, send it down. And people love this one. The tourists love it.
Oh, it's so cool. I like the unique, like when they all look the same, which is with a different label, it's kind of like whatever. But like this is something you can't just reproduce easily.
So now I will get back to the economy. To explain, I mean, there's so much smoke and mirrors. And when they say that inflation is going to be transitory,
what does that mean exactly?
That means that it's going to come and go.
Okay,
and,
like the wind or something.
Yeah, it'll come. It's just a little spike and things. So I knew that was not true. I'm not saying people were lying. They were just indulging in wishful thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
And But I'm heartened by the fact that they're saying now that it's going to be with us a while, because really then I'm thinking maybe we will get over it, get through this time. But it's currency and money supply, and you've heard all those things. People really, don't quite get it.
Yeah, like me. I'm trying though.
I guess I thought about this word picture for money supply, and there's a couple great economists out there. Milton Friedman, classical Nobel Prize winner, and then a cat that the left side of the aisle often quote, but none of them have read, which is a guy named John Maynard Keynes. And he was brilliant economist during the Roosevelt era, during the Great Depression, the real Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, well, one of the problems is there's not enough money to change hands. Print some more money so people can actually buy things.
Yeah.
And it won't cause inflation. And what he said, and he didn't mean that if you kept printing money, it would not cause inflation. Eventually it will, but there's a wealth effect in between.
Yeah.
And it can help commerce of all kinds. And he was right. Okay. And Milton Friedman said he was right. But in the end, it's kind of like us here in Oregon, especially along the coast, know this, is that rain.
Yeah.
We really need it. Okay, sometimes, and and when there's a drought, but when it comes, it keeps coming, and it might rain in a month 20 inches, never a flood, because the ground keeps soaking it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, the ground is full, and then every inch of rain that falls raises the river a foot. And so that's kind of like the money supply. At a certain point, the ground is full, and if you want, and it's too much money chasing too few goods. Okay, so that every dollar that you put into at that point where it's full, the economy is full of money. Every dollar more that you put in circulation drives the price of goods and services up. Period. Yeah. That's it. It's an absolute science. And predictable. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's pretty easy for me to understand, and I'm kind of a visual learner, so it's like,
so that's easy for me. I'm a kinetic learner. I like to feel things.
Oh yeah.
I'm just glad I took Econ Gov this year. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, man.
I had this great econ teacher there too, and I never could figure this out. He'd come and he'd go up to the lectern. It was for a Western. It was a relatively large class. His name was Xenon Xavier Zygmunt. ZXZ was his initials. Were his initials.
Man, that's cool initial.
Anyway, so he'd step up, and I really respected him. He'd come up to the lectern, and the first thing he would do, and the class would get quiet. And there was probably about 60 in the class, and he'd take off his watch like this, and then he'd set it down on the lectern in front of him. And then he'd start his lecture at exactly 12 o'clock and end exactly at 1.
Wow.
And I always wondered why he went through this ritual. And then the light went on with me, because he was this guy that, thought that everybody should get their money's worth from what he does.
Oh.
And you guys, and later I told this, he didn't share the watch thing. He said that you paid for an hour, I'm going to give you an hour. So the class clock was behind him.
Yeah.
Okay. And it wouldn't have mattered if it would have been behind him or in front of him. But when you're listening to a lecture, and he recommended to the students don't try and take notes. Just listen to me and follow the story of my lecture today.
Oh,
You'll get more out of it
wow.
than trying to take notes, and then I'm past you already, you know. And so then that light went on, and what he didn't want to do was give the class any visual cues that he was looking at the time. So when his watch was out in front of him, all he had to do was just move his eyes down and up, not look this way, that way, and he didn't, because if you'll notice in a class, if there's a professor that is looking at the time, everybody then looks at their time.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cute.
So that's why he took it off. Tricky. I thought it was just what do they call it when they're like really smart.
Am I boring you yet?
Oh, this is cool, man. I'm digging this. How do we get into that story though? Like we were talking.
You asked me about econ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So like how long do you think we have? Because it just seems like it's dragging on, but like gas is getting so high.
It's going back to it's the energy thing, and it's oil now, because it's the medium of exchange for energy. It's fossil fuel, period.
And we have tons of it here.
We do.
So my girlfriend, she's very pro environment.
Sure.
She works with fisheries and whatnot, but she doesn't have a problem, and I'm probably throwing her under the bus a little bit. It's probably not exactly like this, but like she kind of doesn't seem to care as much that China's and the Middle East or wherever, they're just effing up all of their land, and we're getting the oil over here, but we're going to keep ours good.
Right.
And it's like, well, I mean, on one hand, it's like, yeah, I'd rather have my house clean and their house dirty, but at the same time, it seems it doesn't seem like it quite adds up.
Well,
at the end of the day.
I don't. Just simply because I understand, I've heard that message, dating back for decades.
Yeah.
And in other words, let's use everybody else's oil and keep ours in the bank, okay?
Keep ours in the bank.
But it doesn't work that way, because now, Casey, we have such a world economy.
Yeah.
And look at really right now, the Russians, I went over to a family friend's wedding over in the Czech Republic a few years back, and it was I love Prague. Prague was really they're not at least then they weren't on the euro, and you got such a great deal on some things, believe me. And but Prague, beautiful city. But the group that I was there with at this wedding party, and it went all night long. They party. These Czech people know how to and they had rented one of the pre-communists, because the Russians occupied Czechoslovakia back then, but now Czech Republic. One of the Rothschilds, what's that called, castles, from a different age, from the Gilded Age, And so that was where the wedding party was, when the wedding was out in front. And so I was around some like scientist types, and they're at this wedding, and the one thing that they pointed out to me about the Russians, because I was talking about, well, what do you think about socialism, or blah blah. Well, they weren't going for any of it. They were just really thankful to be free, but they went out of their way to tell me that the Russians were very smart people. Very smart, and so that stuck with me. And I'm seeing what's happening now, and I think it's a huge tragedy. I hate war in all of its forms. Of course, the thing is, I would fight for, to defend somebody, to defend our country. But then, even in war, you have, if you don't believe in the cause, you can help out in the other ways, like there's been conscious objectors all throughout our history. But the Ukraine situation is tragic. Just keep in mind that they were part of the Warsaw Pact countries. After World War II, they were occupied by Russia for, up until, I think, 15 years ago.
Yeah. 1992.
1992.
That was when the dissolution of the Soviet Union.
Right, but
happened.
I don't think Ukraine was. They left Ukraine till later, did they?
I don't think so. I think it might have just been a total breakdown in '92 because that's when places like Yugoslavia, the Czech Republic, all those places broke off and formed their own independent democratic states.
But it's. I mean, I hate it when I hear, oh, let's just send more money for more arms to kill more people.
Yeah.
From either side. I mean, let's try and be a broker of peace over there.
Yeah.
That's that's I think would benefit the world. The Russians have on this whole thing with energy because they're in some ways very energy rich, in some ways, but they have the ruble is which is their currency there. It first took a big dive against the dollar, but now it's back up. It's better than it was before.
Weren't they like, okay, well you can't buy our oil if you don't change your money to rubles, right?
Right. Yeah. That was clever.
Yeah. I mean, because they need it, they can't go without it, right?
Right. So I don't know. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I pray for peace there. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to believe though, because my understanding was that we kind of like had our hand in that whole Ukraine, or I don't know exactly.
There's so many lies going on. It's just that's why I would refrain on commenting too much. I mean, I read a really great article in of all things, not the bastion of conservatism, Time Magazine. Great reporter there that reported on the events that led up to the war.
Yeah.
Okay. And really Malcolm Gladwell did tipping points. What were some tipping points? Well, really the current leader of the Ukraine started to suspend freedom of speech.
Ooh. Yeah.
This is according to Time.
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
send you
Yeah.
that
That's
article.
true. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm just saying this is what they said.
Yeah. This is what they said.
And he targeted the Russian sympathizers because a third of the population of Ukraine is tied to Russia.
It's just somebody like me. They all sound the same. They all have the same kind of accent. I can't tell the difference. Yeah. Is there a different language?
Oh yeah, it's different. Ukrainian is different.
Does it sound like Russian though?
I think it's even Czechoslovakian is like, I would say, it's like Latin languages, right?
Yeah.
French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, some of the main ones. And I would argue that French is not the most beautiful of all the Latin languages. It's Italian. You go over there and you listen to those people. It's like they're singing when they're talking, man.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I love to listen to them talk. So the Slavic languages are similar to that. I would say like the Czech Republic, which is a Slavic language, Czechoslovakian, it's kind of like the Italian of Slavic languages. It's got everything's kind of. It's not as rough as some of the other, like Russian. Russian is. It sounds to me like sometimes I listen to them in the movies anyway. It's like they growl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like German.
Right.
You ever hear German when they're angry? I guess it's usually in movies about World War II with Nazis, right?
Oh yeah.
And they just it's really kind of, it's just got this crazy sound to it that's like, I don't know. Like, language is awesome.
I'm trying to get this open. I'm not having much luck here. Maybe I put it.
I have a little key
pocket knife. I've got my pocket knife is in my.
I got one too.
Let's see.
Can I help you there?
I think that might work.
Yeah, so I flew a little off the subject, but I flew more probably in this last year or so than the last 5 years of my life, which is like, okay, it's global pandemic, let's fly over the place, and it's just kind of like
My
girlfriend loves to
airlines,
travel.
or do you actually fly?
No, I don't have a pilot's license, but I'm close. I don't have any flight time. Oh, well, there you go. But I had a little Swiss Army knife, and I flew everywhere. Nobody cared. A tiny little one, with the toothpick in it. And finally went to Las Vegas or something. I don't know. I went there, and I flew out of Eugene. And they're like, oh, you gotta throw that away, or you gotta run back to your car. And I was like, oh, well, that's pretty old, so I threw it away. But I figured this. I don't know if this little key thing. I don't have to have a knife on me when I'm in the plane, but I just need one on me all the time.
Oh, I mean, this is an exception. I have a sling pack that I usually carry everywhere with everything in it.
Yeah.
And I have a full blown pocket knife.
Yeah. Like you need your stuff, like. And for me, it's like I need my toothpick. That's I don't necessarily need the knife, but I don't have a way to put my toothpick on my keychain because I can't keep a hold of anything else. A floss. Yeah, there you have it. So what is this Bushmills?
Yeah, I'm not as fond of it as I am some of the other Irish whiskeys.
I've had Bushmills.
Oh, it's good.
I like Bushmills.
It's with the Irish, there's still that stigma between the Protestant and the Catholic.
Really, I didn't
Bushmills
know that
is a Protestant.
Oh,
whiskey.
Really? Okay, so what's have you had Tullamore Dew? Do you like Tullamore Dew?
No, I haven't.
So the liquor store here in Newport, God, the guy, I love this guy. His name's Tank. Well, they call him Tank. He's got a cool nickname. Anyway, he is my whiskey guy. I go in there. We have such a big shelf of whiskey in Newport, and so he says Tullamore Dew's kind of like Jameson. It's like basically
Jameson's is a Catholic version.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yes.
But it's like it costs less. I don't know. I think I need to try them right next to each other, and I haven't really been drinking a lot of Irish lately. I'm kind of more of a bourbon guy lately, but all whiskey is good whiskey.
Well, we have to be careful with it. Medicine, is best used in small doses.
So yeah, the economy crashes. I bet you things like this are going to be worth a lot of money, like whiskey, right? Like
maybe
if they become hard to come by, right?
Yeah. Well, then I did, and there is the. It's usually a short-lived phenomenon, and it could help us mitigate the circumstances of inflation on the coast. Especially in Lincoln County, and it affects some other counties on the coast. People will stop flying as much, and you can from I'm going to say Vancouver to Eugene, you can fill up your vehicle with fuel, come down to the coast, and go back home and still have a little fuel left over.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 tank of gas or diesel or whatever you're driving.
So maybe the gas prices going up aren't going to hurt tourism as much because people won't fly.
It will hurt. It will hurt. But there's also the other thing was people are thinking it's just going to get worse, and let's eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow we die.
Oh, so you have that
could happen for 1 year.
What do you call that? Like the I don't even know what you call it. Can I try a little bit of this? Oh, you already poured me some.
Yeah.
Step ahead of me, man.
Well,
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is awesome.
Well, it goes with the beer.
I've never. Oh yeah, Irish whiskey, Irish beer.
Single malt.
I really like to try my hand at distilling, and I was talking to Luke over at Beer One.
Oh, Luke is a great guy.
He is awesome. A great guy. I want to have him on the podcast and really get into beer brewing, and he's just like, dude, that guy is awesome.
Let me know when, because Luke is a good guy. I like him.
Oh yeah, you bet. And he already said he'd do it.
I used to carry his kombucha.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have such a cool community
actually.
here.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. But he said, he kind of knows how to do a lot of that kind of stuff. And
he's a craftsman. Yeah. He knowledgeable guy.
And I think you can distill your own booze for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
but you can't sell it unless I don't know what you have to do. But like, I would love to kind of try that. Like, I've done beer with a buddy. He had a minor fermentation.
Right.
It's so fun. But like, still like maybe a little too complicated for what I want to do right now. Just a lot more steps than wine. But I'm not sure exactly about what it takes to do distilling yet.
The guy I was telling you, the guy that I named the stout after, Harry Allen, my first skipper.
Yeah.
Tough guy.
Yeah.
He bought his own distillery,
Really?
Oh, yeah. And so he had to give me some of his fare, It's dangerous, when you get up there around 100 proof, that doesn't take much.
Man, they need to make a really good one, though. Like,
what is the Gaelic for cheers? It's salante.
Salate.
Salante.
Salate.
Salante. Yeah. I think if I said that wrong, somebody's going to call and correct.
Yeah, I wish I could pour this on the ground right now. Actually, it's kind of weird. I just had a couple of people I know pass away, and I was just thinking, they need to make a really good, maybe a Scotch or something. I don't know. A lot of people don't buy Scotch, but like Fallen Soldier or something. It's like really good to drink, but then like that's the one you buy when you have a buddy that you want to.
Scotch is this strange animal that I didn't understand, really. I mean, why people made such a big deal about it until I got some, there's basically two types of Scotch, do you know? There's Islay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Islay, and then there's Highland.
Yeah.
And the Islay is the real peaty taste, like charcoal kind of tasting,
Lefroy. Is that?
I'm not sure which one. I'm not an expert on Scotch. I just know
okay.
basics.
Yeah. You remember better than me.
But I was at a cigar event up in Portland. What was the last name? Don McIntyre was there. He's the one that got Measure 5 passed, which was property tax limitation that's really benefited Oregonians.
Property tax limitation?
Yeah, way back.
What does that mean? They can't just keep raising it up?
Not above your purchase price. When you get into a property, they can only raise it based upon, I think, the index.
Have you heard of a Lloydal title? Yeah. So, I mean, the property tax, that's a good subject.
Oh, brother.
but because you don't really own it. If you don't really own your property if you always have to pay.
Let's see. Who was it? It was one of our founding fathers. It was trying to think of which one it was. It was the one that brewed beer at the Green Dragon.
Jeez, I don't know. I'm just not that. I need to be better at history. I love history.
Samuel Adams.
It was Sam Adams. Sam Adams. Thank you.
How did we not get that? What are we?
Because this is
Dayton over here. This guy, he's the scholar.
So Sam Adams in a speech there to his fellow conspirators. Okay,
yeah.
The Green Dragon was the famous tavern that they would all get together in the secret.
I've heard
meetings.
of it, but I didn't think it was a real thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely was. And he to his fellow conspirators about taxes, because they did the Stamp Act, they were going to have to pay for paper and blah 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 blah. And he got up there and said, "What next? Will they tax our property?"
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, it's a toughie, because I know that they disincentivize people from moving in and out of state or something because of the property taxes or something like that. But I just think you should be able to live on your property and just live off the land and not have to.
I think so too.
But my grandfather told me this story about how he helped this guy in Southern Oregon get a Lloydal title.
I haven't heard that.
It's this thing that you can do. Somehow it's like you go into let's say you go into what office is this that you go into to talk about your property tax? What is that? You just go into the city.
No, it's the county.
I don't even know because I don't own property.
Assessors. office.
So you go there, wherever there is assessors, and and you're like, I'd like to file for a Lloydal title, and he's like, they won't let you do it. Is basically, and he was explaining that he just kept going in until somebody signed off for him. Just and it exempts you from the property tax, and it kind of like you sort of step out of the whole taxing system. He was explaining that the state is like this organization that was built kind of on top. I'm kind of butchering his story probably, but it's kind of built on top of. It's like this extra thing that we're all a part of. That's not. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying here, but this is hard to explain. But
okay.
But yeah, you get a little title. You don't have to pay property tax anymore, but then also you don't get Social Security. You're kind of.
I have not heard that. Yeah, that's a new one. I'll look it up. For sure.
Actually, you should look it up, Dayton, to make sure I'm not crazy.
I was going to say, I mean, one of the greatest joys of my life was wife and I had a daughter, and I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
And Hannah, and it was. I have other children, but being a little older and having a child, it just was so rewarding. Yeah. So she watched SpongeBob SquarePants, and so I got familiar with old SpongeBob. You know? And it reminded me when you were going there, like trying to figure out how to tie it all together. Is let's bring it around town.
I've totally heard that. Yeah, bring it around. SpongeBob, man, that guy. Yeah, he was wildly successful. He was kind of on the in when I was starting to get out of like watching satellite cartoons. But I was obsessed with cartoons. I watched The Mole and SpongeBob was awesome. And he was a surfer. Well, I mean, they were all surfers because Steven Hillenburg was a surfer.
Oh,
the guy who
creator?
did it. Oh yeah. He was all about that. Yeah, he was a lobster fisherman. Like it totally makes sense. Anyway, but yeah, bring it around town. Yeah, I this is another person like you that I'm talking about though. My grandfather, who he's still with us. He's still around. I think we actually talked about him. Did I tell you I wanted to meet him? Yeah, you did actually, because he's a Vietnam vet. Right. Yeah. Were you in Vietnam? Or do you? No, you just relate? I was thankful that I didn't have to go, but my last year of high school, 73, was the first year I was eligible, and my number was really high, was 300 something, and for that year, and that was the last year that they really held the draft. Oh, up until now. Yeah, are they? You still have to register, but I don't think they're actually pulling names out of the. I mean, pulling numbers out of that. That's nuts. It's crazy, man. I've thought about war. They went to an all volunteer army. Yeah. I mean service. Yeah, which I admire. I mean, I had so many friends because just a year older than me that went. Yeah. Yeah, and it changed them all. And so it's and they will, every single one of them will tell you the same thing as is war is hell. Yeah. Well, I've listened a little bit to this guy named Sebastian Junger, and he wrote a book about people who go over to war and they come back. And I actually like to. I have his. I think I might have bought the e-version and I haven't read it yet. But basically, he talks about how these people that go to war and they come back and they kind of want to go back to war. I've seen that. I mean, I remember in the mid '70s, I got back. I left home for the last time when I was 20 years old with $100 in my pocket and a one-way ticket to Hawaii. Hawaii, heck yeah! And so I spent a month at the Hotel Street YMCA and found a job and was able to make ends meet and never looked back. God, so Hawaii, man. At least they had fruit growing on the trees. Would you say it was $100? $100 in my pocket and a one-way ticket. Yeah. Oh man. I've wanted to move to Hawaii twice, and I just haven't been able to pull the trigger. It's because it's just like I'm gonna go over there, and I don't know what I'm doing, and it's expensive, and
you're kind of olive skinned. You could, there's a stigma against. I mean, not against, but of howlies.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like the people, the Caucasian, I don't know what you want to call them, people from the States come over there, and we did kind of like take all their pineapples, I'm sorry.
Met some great. I mean, since this is a great segue into at the Sea Hag.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have Michael Dane as our entertainer now, just down to 2 days a week, but he's a gift. Absolutely,
really
awesome.
Wait.
One man band. He's on the grand piano and guitar and everything. He is Hawaiian.
Really?
As a matter of fact, and he has his family over all the time. When they come over, and there's a community of Hawaiian people in Oregon. But Michael, when the Native people of Hawaii first organized to represent themselves with the U.S. government, they elected Michael as their first representative.
No way.
Michael Dane. He, besides being a extraordinary entertainer, he is a great human being.
I got to get in there.
You have to
I got to
come.
get in there
Yeah,
when he's
I
there.
mean, I don't know how much longer he's going to be there.
Really?
I mean, because he's my age. And you never know how long I'm going to be here.
I gotta see. Live music, you can't beat it.
Oh,
especially when you're hanging out.
You will. You got to tell me, and we'll, wife and I will come down and see you guys.
Yeah.
Bring a +1.
Oh yeah, no, I'll bring my girlfriend. My girlfriend actually lived in Hawaii. She lived not just in Hawaii. She lived basically like the way you would think you'd want to live in Hawaii, like on the beach in a hammock.
That's dangerous. that even back when I was there, because I lived there in 75, 76, and 77. But the beach is, I mean, it can be a dangerous place. I mean, at night. Yeah.
Well, it was for work for her. She was saving turtles, baby turtles. And so there was other people with her.
Oh yeah, even on the main island, Oahu, there's out Makaha, there's a turtle beach there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and they're all over. The green turtles. They're part of the real cool things that you can see over there.
Well, the ones she was helping preserve or save or whatever, hawksbill. So she was just explaining to me the other day that the hawksbill, you don't see them when you're snorkeling because they go further out.
Right.
But like really endangered, like.
Sure.
And so they still do all. I think they still kind of look real similar, and they still kind of crawl and everything. But yeah, she'd help them. Like little turtles.
Oh, they're adorable.
Can you imagine? Like, I'd just be chucking them in, like, I'm that little ornery boy that's like, how far can I throw him? Throw him home.
I'm just helping him.
Yeah, just helping.
Give him a little head start.
Yeah. Oh, this is Dayton. Yeah, Dayton. Yeah, Dayton's awesome. So he's Abe's son, and he comes and runs the show, and he does a killer job. Yeah.
Howdy, everyone.
I can't even believe how smart this guy is.
If anybody's listening, do you think that they're enjoying what they hear?
Oh, I don't know, Dayton. Are we
what
getting
do you think
comments?
tonight, Dayton?
I think I saw.
Let's see. We have 2 comments. It's Kathy and Clary.
Our biggest fans.
They said they were going to be on. Well, we do post this after the fact on Spotify and YouTube.
I'd listen to this.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
I mean, this has been rich. Yeah,
we're talking about real things. I like the long form conversation. It's like one of the things we talked about before we got on the podcast. You were talking about truth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I really appreciated that.
That's important.
And it's hard to fake yourself or be a phony in a long form scenario.
I ran for office in 2012 against Gomberg when that seat was open.
Oh.
Ended up actually becoming friends with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays I guess it's rare, but we are still friends. And So I think it's important in discussions, and I because I was the Republican nominee. Not that I'm a great big party man, because I'm not. I've got some very conservative principles, but I also have some very open-minded principles. That I believe that as long as you're not hurting somebody else in a free society, that you should be allowed to live your life as you see fit, not how somebody else tells you to live it. So, but I can remember talking to Right to Life, and for an endorsement, because they walk you through, when you're even at the state rep level, they walk you through all these endorsements, and they got the biggest kick out of me. They did endorse me, but they got the biggest kick out of what I had to say. Was I'm a fan of some philosophers. I'm a fan of René Descartes, 16th century philosopher that coined the phrase that people have probably heard but don't know the rest of it. Did I tell you this the other day? Oh, no.
I don't think so.
You've heard, think, therefore I am. Have you heard that?
Oh, you did mention that. Yeah, let's hear that.
The rest of that, it's basically his treatise, or his argument. Therefore, there must be something greater than me. Therefore, there is a God. And then that's when he presented his case for there is a God. So, in my Right to Life, discussion with them, I said, look at, I have the greatest sympathy for anybody that is in a situation as a woman with an unwanted child. But I also hardly, with just so many few exceptions, that a woman, they don't want to lose their baby.
Yeah.
Their ideal would be to, be with somebody, a partner that they loved and that they could raise it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I told the Right to Life, if you're going to push your scenario, then you better be prepared to support these women. I mean, throughout their life.
Yeah.
To get them a place to live, the food on the table, eventually, to bring them the full package. And they loved it. They endorsed me.
Well, there you have it. You figured it out.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't have anything figured out. I would say I'm a man of faith. I'm a believer.
Yeah.
But I also no buts about it. I love, and I would say I love a certain statements from the New Testament, and it was. And if anybody has a mind to read, I'm not sure which chapter in the book of what they call the Acts of the Apostles.
Yeah, was
when Paul, who faced a extraordinary conversion, but he went to Mars Hill in Athens to this and the guys that he were speaking to were arguably the most intellectual of humankind at the time, and he made his case.
Mm-hmm.
That God is invisible, but the evidence of God is all around you. In every breath you take, He's in every and if there is a God, He's in every molecule and fabric of the universe that's holding it all together. And every great religion in the world will tell you the same thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a whole kind of movement. At least, pre-pandemic, I feel like once the pandemic hit, everything kind of blurred, and it was like, I don't know what happened, but but there was this whole science meets spirituality, science meets God type of thing that was kind of happening. Pretty interesting stuff, like with like physicists, and you know anything?
I listen because I'm absolutely open-minded. It's like as a Christian, challenge your faith. Well, why this? Why that? Why does God allow the evil that exists in all the world? And I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
All the answers. And so I'm fat. And well, what about? And often throughout my life, what about evolution? And I'll go back to René Descartes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and one of his basic forms of logic was something that's, how does a lower form of life by anxious thought become a higher form of life? It does not meet the test of logic.
Well, when you put it like that, it definitely doesn't seem like the most easy path.
So I'm saying, if there's evolution, let's just say there is. Where's the author of that? It's still life.
It does. I mean, to me, it does seem like there's something more behind everything, regardless of all of whatever. It's just. How did it come to be?
Right.
Like the Big Bang. What was before the Big Bang? If there was a Big Bang, and they, everything's speculative.
Right.
Like everybody's like, I was just listening to Michio Kaku, the guy who fathered
Love
string
that guy.
theory.
Yeah.
Great guy. But
Yeah.
When they speak, with like the Big Bang and everything, so many billion years ago, and it's just like it's very a matter of fact until it's not.
And I know exactly, and I will say that I'm like this, I guess. And this is a podcast, I can go like this, and people say like they're trying to divine the truth of the matter.
If you're just listening and you aren't watching, he's moving his hands.
How do you say a scale.
He's balancing scales. I'm just like, how do you say that? Wait.
Is that how do you divine the truth of a matter? And so where were we?
Balancing the scales. God, we were just right. I might have lost it.
We're not going to meet Joe Rogan tonight. But we don't know. It's when I was going to say that grounding myself there is that I think that sometimes that I go like this about some of the genesis of the Talmud, which is the first 5 books of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that are some of these, especially in Genesis, what Moses was dictated from the Great Spirit,
Yeah.
And is it allegorical, or so that more people would understand the basic concepts of what happened? And so I question whether that is the case, whether it is maybe based upon a story, but it also a story that people will understand. But I will say it's interesting that just as all the physicists, astronomical physicists will say, is that the universe began in the Big Bang.
Yeah.
That the Bible says, the first words from Genesis, "Let there be light," in the story of creation.
Oh well, that does kind of,
it's
it's kind of like a crazy, kind of.
And that the stars and the moon and the sun didn't exist for several days. So how did the author of the Bible register time during that period.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not there. So it's left up to mankind's imagination. You know. Of course, I'm a big UFO fan too, by the way.
I was actually about to ask you about that. So as a man of faith, like, what are you thinking about these things? Like,
I'm curious.
Have you been paying attention?
I am very curious.
The recent stuff.
Oh well.
Have you heard anything about that?
Which I mean, the most grounded stuff are those recordings off the naval vessels of the naval aviators that followed these objects with the radar, and it's all recorded.
Yeah.
Are those the ones you're talking about?
Well, there's Commander David Fravor, who that was 2004, but like more.
When you get famous, Casey, I mean, you got to have me on again.
Oh yeah. I like the idea of having people on again. Because it's like I want to see what this person thinks about something, and you can't just have them on once and it's over. You know, like Abe, I got to have.
You mean
Abe
one
back
and
on.
done?
Yeah, one and done. No
like
way.
Those one night stands.
Yeah. No, I want to try it again. Yeah, no, my girlfriend would not like that.
No, she would not. She does not like you even talking about it.
No, she usually listens. She might be having dinner with somebody. If you're having dinner and you listen to this later, you're busted.
Let's see.
Oh yeah. No, she's actually in Corvallis right now. She's doing some sort of course she works for Trout Unlimited. It's all about
that's cool.
Saving the fish.
That's good.
No, it's super cool. Oh. Yeah, no, we've gone on all these crazy hikes with all kinds of cameras to film salmon, like really cool stuff.
Oh, the salmon! Oh, you don't want to get me started on the salmon.
What do you know about salmon?
What do I know about salmon?
I mean, I guess you said don't, but I just did it.
Right. All right. Let's see what time. I'm looking at my watch. We're going to go past our bot.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. Okay. We can't go over 3 hours. Usually.
Okay, so
we're at 1.5.
So
we're doing all right. Salmon.
When I got involved in fisheries, the sea urchin fishery.
That's probably kind of related.
We found that within my first year of working, and I just got my permit, and it was like winning the lottery at the time, 88. There were organizations aligned against us in exploiting the resource of sea urchins that now they want to get rid of. So there was a case that was being brought to the ODF&W Commission that could have put the sea urchin fishery out of business, to ask them that very thing. A man that represented the Audubon Society, and here I am. I'm a neophyte and 34 years old at or 33 at that time, and so I went to represent myself in desperation because I really wanted to do this thing, and so there was a Navy SEAL of the name of George Tomlinson, really incredible guy. And another man there from the a processor, and we all testified to the commission, and then the other man testified, and that day we won the battle, I should say. And that man that testified to shut us down was the same man, Andy Kerr, that had shut down the logging industry and brought them to their knees over the spotted owl.
Oh.
But that day he lost.
Oh.
And so that was what made me believe that one person, man, woman, don't care about your pronouns.
Yeah.
Could, with a strong, resolute voice and just expressing their belief and opinion, could make a difference with decision makers. In this case, the ODF and that commission, and it did. And so I mean, I was a member of the guys that I was working with. There was 100 of us at the time. They formed their own organization, and the greatest honor of my life, as far as being elected to anything and ever will be, was from those guys that actually knew me, knew how I worked, knew what I was all about, knew the metal that I was made out of, elected me as their representative, the president of the first Oregon Sea Urchin Divers Association. And we got this reputation of being like an organization to be reckoned with. There were some really great voices, not just mine. You know, it was just, it takes a concert of people. You know, one voice, I don't think it doesn't. Sometimes it'll turn the tide, but when you get a color and anyway. So that's what bit me into, you know, to where I'm at today. Even as far as being involved with the community, I'm Depoe Bay City Councilor, have been for 8 years, and have been a part of too many organizations and decision makers to iterate right this at this very minute. But what happens with people, Casey, is that the little guy, even a guy like me and like you, when they don't know how to represent themselves, they become victims of other people that have never even done anything in their life, but make the laws that govern us all. And so I say, really, to all those who are listening, be careful who you vote for. Vote for people that you believe represent the truth and common sense, and that will represent your views in an honest way. So, I mean, I went to bat for, I mean, it started, I mean, I guess the spirit started with the way I was raised. I told the story when I was campaigning against Dave Gombert, okay? And we had an event, and it was a broadcast event. And after it, he said, "I wish that was my story," to me. And here's the story. My mother, who just passed a year ago, 23rd of May, she would tell me that one of the most heartwarming times of my life as a mother was when another mother called me and said, "Thank you for raising such a great son." My mother said, "Why?" She said, "Because at the bus stop today, a boy was ridiculing my daughter, and your son stepped in. I remember it well." I sat there and listened to it for a few minutes until she went into tears. And I said, "Knock it off." And he said, "Make me." So I did. But bullies don't go down hard. We were still rolling around in the dust when the bus driver pulled up and said, "Get off there and get in there if you want to get to the school." But
yeah.
And then my mother told me that wasn't the last time a mother called me. So I think that we need to celebrate people that are willing to step out, but to represent your views.
Yeah, I mean, that's so tough with, from my perspective, I never wanted anything to do with politics.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was a karate bum in high school.
Oh, really?
All I did was karate. Like,
Right on.
I always wanted to do karate. And then it was like, I wanted to eat, sleep, and breathe karate. And, politics was just
Mr. Miyagi and everything?
Actually, my grandmother's from Okinawa.
Uh-huh.
And
so that's good.
I saw a guy. I was there. I went there, and there was a guy at a baseball diamond.
Cool. That is really cool.
He was practicing karate, and I stood next to him, and I
Oh no, that is really cool because I love the martial art. I'm not a martial artist.
Yeah.
But I love the martial arts, and I'm a great fan of the Japanese culture. Yeah.
Oh, it's really interesting to think about because Japan, I believe, was colonized by the military, and that's I think that's why their culture is so,
Well, I tell you this, is that when the tidal wave, I was still in the urchin industry at the time.
Oh, in 2011.
Yeah. To a certain degree, and I was called and told that I was kind of I was distanced from it, but one of the processors that I sold to was right there at near the tidal wave,
right there
where it came through. Yeah.
Okay.
And there was he left for work that morning. He would walk to his own processing plant.
Yeah.
He processed fish and sea urchins. And he never came back. And my CPA firm, they had a Japanese woman that worked for them there in Portland. And this speaks really highly for the Japanese people and the culture. They put together a care package because that woman that worked for them, her family was from one of those communities that was devastated. And so they put together a care package and hired a driver to take it to them in a van and a trailer, food and everything. And when it got to the family there, this is my CPA telling me this, the family that it was meant for said, no, we'll distribute to the community. It's not just for us.
Uh-huh.
I just think that speaks very highly for the Japanese culture, the community, the heart that they have. I had the opportunity because as part of the sea urchin fishery, we did, with the state of Oregon, form a commodities commission.
Yeah.
And taxed ourselves. And when some radicals wanted to dissolve that, we were trying to figure out a way to spend all the money that we'd paid ourselves, and it ended up with one of the bureaucrats from a great guy, Dalton Hobbs was his name, that was the head of the Commodities Commission program with the state of Oregon, taking us over there to Japan and hired a translator and took us throughout the island, the Honshu, the main island. And it was just really just a joy. It was just incredible experience. And it was great having a translator. I mean, I speak just a very little Japanese. I can ask where to go to the bathroom. I can ask you your name. But I think it's interesting, because I lived over in Hawaii and I worked at a long-term care facility as an orderly over there in my early 20s. Really? Yeah, 20. I was 20 years old.
What an interesting thing to do in the Orient.
And so, I mean, I had this Japanese English teacher teach me. So I said, and one of the traditional Japanese greetings is when you first meet somebody. In Japanese it was hajimemashite, yoroshiku onegaishimasu, which means, how do you do? Pleased to meet you. I need your help in this relationship.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And when
we never say shit like that.
No, we don't. But what was really cool, Casey, was I was over there and we went to on the southern end of Honshu to a fishing community, and they put on the Ritz for us. It was just incredible. And our host, I don't know, maybe I should save one of these stories for a future broadcast.
I mean, we still got time. We're not done.
Okay.
The fat lady has not sung.
So many Westerners think that they have you ever been to Japan?
I've been to Okinawa, Japan.
Okay. Did you ever see an advertisement on a billboard or anything for the Hostess bars?
Not that I can recall, no.
So it's really big on the main island, Honshu, and around Tokyo. And Westerners mistake that for houses of prostitution. They are not.
It does kind of sound like that, like the hostess.
They are not, okay? And what it is this really, foreign to Westerners' mindset is that women, and this is really big, really a lot bigger in the, I'm going to say late 80s and 90s, throughout the 90s and early 2000s, that it was the modern form of geisha.
Okay.
And you would go to these hostess bars, and these women would fawn all over you.
Yeah.
And the Japanese men would have their favorite hostess, and that's the one they got every single time. And they'd spend sometimes over the period of 10 years $100,000-$200,000 on that one hostess.
Wow.
At these hostess so-called bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so so we were at this event, for the sea urchin divers, and they, out front of the hotel, there was a line of limos after the dinner was done, and that was when the Japanese men said, "Now the fun begins."
Oh.
Out of the formal, and then they took us to one of their private hostess bars.
Yeah.
Okay. And with women fawning all over you, and the Hennessy's was flowing. And, And the singing. What do we call the singing to?
Oh, karaoke.
Karaoke. It was karaoke was huge. It's just like they explained to us as they come in. And Harry Allen, my friend that I kept telling you that we named our beer after him.
Yeah.
He goes, as we're coming in, he says, "Jerome, if one more of those guys pinches me in the ass, I'm gonna flatten him." I said, Harry, come on, man. You don't want to cause an international incident, do you? So we go into the hostess bars, and the Hennessy is flowing. Everything is completely calm.
Yeah.
And they have the karaoke going, and it's just like it's an absolute effing honor. You have to represent yourself on the karaoke.
Yeah. Okay. I like this. It's
And so I was nominated.
What did you sing?
Oh, it was the worst, man. It's just the worst, toughest song, Hotel California by the Eagles.
God.
Oh, my goodness. That's a tough song to sing.
Oh, my God.
So a guy named Eric Hamilton, which was an absolutely incredible urchin diver and a great guy, younger than me. We went up and did it. And I to tell you how we were received, Harry came up to me and said, "Jerome, when you started singing that song with Eric, I wanted to hide under the table." Hey, it's a tough tune.
I don't know if I can carry a note either.
With Hotel California, it's not like it's the most melodic song there is out there.
Oh, there's a few good ones. It's like all the really good ones too. They have these notes they hit and these pitches, and it's just I can't do that. No way.
So then our host came to us, and it was still going on. The party was still going on. He said, "I want you to come to my private hostess bar." So Eric and he invited me and Eric that sang the song with me. And it was close quarters, even half this size of the room, and they were fawning over us, and the Hennessy's again was flowing. And Eric, who had he's a kind of liberal guy, but his parents were missionaries over to Taiwan. And so he had a lot of exposure to the Asian element and was not completely, let's just say, happy with it because he grew up with that way. And he looks at me. His face was flush, and you'd have to know, handsome guy, young man, at that time probably 29. He said, Jerome, I don't know what to say to these people. I think they're calling me bad pig. And I went, bad pig, Eric? No, I just don't believe it. Come on, man.
Bad pig.
Bad pig? Come on. No, I said, he was flush. And Eric was this kind of, because I've faced Eric before when we disagreed on something, and it's like he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's waiting for me to knock it off. And the best way with somebody like that is not to knock it off their shoulder.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that, And so I said, just a minute, Eric. So I turned to my host and I said, I explained in broken, English, and that my friend here, my fellow urchin diver, thinks that you and this hostess are calling him a bad pig. And they looked at me with this look of astonishment until I explained it twice. And then all of a sudden a light went on there and said, no, we say he looked like Brad Pitt.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, so you can imagine what my nickname for Brad.
Brad
Eric.
Pitt.
Yeah, so Eric was, hey, bad pig.
Yeah, actually, when I was in Okinawa, we were at the bar, and they were like, "Oh, have you tried Orion beer?" Orion beer. I was like, "Oregon beer, yeah, of course." Let's try this Oregon. You got Oregon beer here?
And would this they have some IPA or something?
Well, it's a little tiny town called Hinoko, right next to Camp Schwab, it's like a military base in Okinawa. And so they bring me this beer out, and it's the lightest beer I've ever seen. And it's like, it's a Pilsner. I'm like, I don't think we're really known for our Pilsners here.
We do a Pilsner at the
You got a
Horn.
good one?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's like, and actually, I'm not sure if we're still using it, to be honest, but right after we started brewing it, because I insisted, because having been to the Czech Republic, I said, you gotta get something from the Czech Republic to brew Pilsner.
So you're really kind of getting beers
I tried
from all
to, man.
over. That's
so our brewer went and reached out, and he actually got yeast, the Pilsner yeast imported from Czech Republic.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like it's about time for a tasting for me. Let's get some of that.
Okay, all right.
But so I try this beer, and it's a Pilsner.
Yeah.
And it is a really good Pilsner.
Right on. Yeah.
And it's called Orion.
I love Orion.
But
I love that name.
It's brewed there, but even to this day, I'm like, is it Orion or is it Orion? Like, they say Orion. But so it was just a funny thing where I found this comfort of like, oh, they've got Oregon stuff here. Where the hell over in Okinawa? But it was not even close. But the way they do their bars there is totally different. I mean, do you remember how they did them there?
Well, the one I was going to mention earlier, when we left the private hostess bar, my host said that he had one more place he had to go to before he went home. Yeah. Okay. Which was a place that he could get wakisoba noodles. Yeah. Right? Wakisoba. And so he took us, and it was another karaoke bar / wakisoba bar. And when I went there, it was one of the, I've only seen it after 9/11 in the U.S. I walked into, it was a young person's bar. Yeah. And so all the Japanese young men and women were in this room doing karaoke, but not the way we had all evening. Yeah. As the old school adult kind of thing. They were joined around a fire pit, arm in arm, locked like this. Whoa. Going back and forth like something out of it a
sounds
Russian
like
thing, and singing together.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just it was heartening.
Wow,
That's all I could say, you know.
that reminds me of the pandemic when they're like, in Ireland,
Oh no! What?
they're like, no
What?
singing. They're like, no singing. I mean, because they're going to spread the virus or whatever. But it's just like you're killing their heart to save their lungs or whatever you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but like, because I feel like it's kind of like that over there when they sing because they're drunk in the bar, and I can only say this because of pop culture and what I've seen of it, but I think it's real. Yeah.
I think it's real. I mean, I saw because right after 9/11, before we owned Gracie's.
Why 9/11?
Well, it's like Americans drew together.
Oh, I see.
And there
Okay.
was a bonding there from everybody that was in the room at the time.
Really?
With Michael Dane, who was singing them too.
Yeah.
And he'd do Lee Greenwood's song, and the whole room would get up and gather onto the dance floor and hold hands and sing with Michael.
Yeah.
It was cool.
That
I
sounds
loved it.
like so much fun. That's how I wish, like, why, that's when you think of
Why
peace
can't we
on-
get together like that?
Why can't we get together? Why can't we just get along? I mean, I was just in John Day.
Oh yeah,
for
I'd like to
a
go
video
up there. I
project.
haven't. It's been. I think I've only visited there in my youth.
Oh, it's so cool. Even like just yesterday, like awesome, super, just mellow, and then beautiful and quiet. But there's this cool little bar. It's like the only really trendy bar. It's called 1188, and it's hopping there. It's cool.
Uh-huh.
They brew their beer. I like it. I kind of think yours is a little. I'm not saying this because you're here because I wouldn't say it, but like yours is a little more refined than theirs.
Right.
But like that's the thing I like about microbreweries is that it doesn't have to be super refined. Like, you can still enjoy an IPA.
Right.
It's got to be pretty terrible.
It's got character.
It's got character. Yeah. There you go. They only had one IPA though. That was my beef. Like, it's all ales and pilsners. I want something heavier.
Right.
I want a dark beer or an IPA. But I really, but I was talking to the motel lady, the manager. She was just like all of it. She was just like the main lady. It wasn't like a big,
Right.
commercial thing. And I try not to talk about politics with just random strangers, but it sort of came up, and I was just like, she was like, people here really don't like Biden. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, whatever, There's a big Let's Go Brandon thing coming in. And I mean, I think Let's Go Brandon's hilarious, and I'm fine with that. But, I was like, back where I'm at, it's like really liberal. And it's just like back, especially during the pandemic, it was hard, like for in pre-pandemic, but like people just can't. It's like if you don't believe what I believe, they're angry at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not okay to be like that, I think.
It's not okay. Yeah.
Because they say, okay, well, if you're really liberal, you were probably voted for Biden or whoever, and then Trump's a Nazi. So how do you can't be friends with Nazis?
So I will tell you. I'll tell you a story. And this, we're getting towards the witching hour, but this is exposing my soul. Okay.
Your soul.
Yeah. So I play tennis with a bunch of guys. I used to. Until I broke my ankle last July in two places, playing golf of all things. But
that's like the most mellow. You walk.
No, I
swing a
slipped
stick.
on the way to register. I do this for the local after-school program, which I'll give a shout-out to the kids, Neighbors for Kids in Depoe Bay, which is
they're great.
Great.
I've worked with them, too. They're really...
Yeah. And so I sponsor a golf team in which I golf in, well, if you can call it that, my part anyway. Anyway, so I slipped on the way to register and broke my ankle, but I didn't know it. And it wasn't sticking through the skin, so I stuck it out for 18 holes. Okay. And one of my tennis buddies works there, and a lot of my tennis friends there where I live, because we have indoor courts, and I love hitting the ball. So several years ago, now, it was something that changed my life and that I'm still pushing today. is that my middle son, who I loved so much, to death in this case, is that he had battled addiction his whole life, and I didn't feel I was there for him in so many ways. But we had a bond of a friendship, especially in his late 30s then, and then he had been sober and been a part of this program for a couple of years, and he fell off the wagon, and so I think he must, right after Thanksgiving in 2018, I think now, is that he fell off the wagon after 2.5 years of being sober and doing great. You'd have to know him to just, you would never think that he was addicted. He took a dose of what I'm sure he thought was heroin, and he thought he knew what he could handle, and it was fentanyl, and it killed him.
Yeah.
And I was on the tennis courts, and my guys there, all liberals, every one of them to the bone. In fact, when they would be talking politics, they were polite enough when I came in the room to stop. But when I got the call that day on the tennis courts, they all surrounded me, just loved me. And that's what we need to do with each other on this earth.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we just, hopefully that's the future.
Yeah.
I mean, especially right now when it's like, it just feels more uncertain than ever. And
yeah. The fentanyl thing is just out of control.
That when was that?
2018.
18. Oh. So fentanyl was going around then too?
Well, and it was so early in the process that I don't believe that Jacob, my son, well, I absolutely don't believe he thought it was fentanyl.
Yeah.
He thought it was heroin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which you could take. I mean, I've talked to the officers. I'm pushing that if somebody is a merchant of death that sells this stuff to people and it results in somebody's death, that they could be exposed to prosecution for wrongful death.
Yeah.
And actually, our Dave Gomberg, he's last full session, he sponsored the legislation to do that. Never made it out of committee, but I'm hoping that it will. But because I believe that it could make a difference in people selling it. That if they knew that if somebody died as a result of it, and over 100,000 deaths last year.
Oh, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I'm one of the parents.
Yeah, I haven't met anybody that's had to go through that, and I can't imagine. I just there's no way I can even.
It's just
comprehend.
Changed my life.
Yeah,
absolutely changed my life.
Do you? What do you think about this whole drug legalization thing? Like, it's
I think when we have merchants of death out there, and we're going, and they're all we make this whole big deal about making sure that the FDA approves this, that, and the other thing as safe for human beings, and they allow drugs that never passed the okay of any test to come and kill some 100. That's more people than we lost in all of the 100,000 people last year. We didn't lose that many people in all of Vietnam. 56 or 59,000 people we lost, men and women we lost in Vietnam, and just in 2021, we lost over 100,000 people to fentanyl poisoning.
That's crazy. That's nuts. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. Like, for me, like, it's so out of my hands. How? So I guess maybe it comes back to like what you're saying with like choose wisely for who you vote for.
Yes. Yes.
Because I mean, and
if you don't believe that somebody should be able to sell drugs that weren't okayed by your government, that will result in your child's or your friends or your spouse's death, then don't vote for them. I mean, people that deal in or merchants of death in fentanyl should be held responsible. And the reason why I think we should hold them responsible is because I think it could result in preventing more deaths. Because if you're out there and you're trying to make a living and you're dealing in other things and you're dealing in fentanyl too, are you going to think twice about it if you know that what you sell could result in your imprisonment? Now they're allowing it. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. People need to be able to be responsible for what they did. In this case, to prevent future deaths.
Yeah, I always felt like drug legalization made a lot of sense.
In some ways, yeah,
but
it does.
I mean, with the fentanyl thing, I think a lot of people are kind of blaming it on the decriminalization that Oregon has done.
Well, Oregon's in the forefront of that. It's just that they've allowed that. I wrote an op-ed for, over the last election cycle over, the allowing actual fatal amounts of cocaine, of fentanyl, of methamphetamines to be sold legally. I mean, not legally, but not completely decriminalized. I just don't think that as a society, I think we have to make hard decisions.
Absolutely.
And part of those decisions is to draw the line, and what we're going to allow and what we're not. And part of that revolves around drugs. I mean, I don't know anybody that died of an overdose of pot.
I've overdosed on pot twice.
I'm not going to even say.
Ingested or smoked?
It's always ingested.
Oh yeah. Well, you can go too far with that.
No, it was just too strong, and I thought I was getting hit by a car and dying of COVID at the same time. I don't know what COVID was. I never had COVID, and then I was just like,
it's psychotropic. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, and you just puke.
Yeah,
and then you go to sleep and you're fine, and it's like the safest thing you could probably ever do. I wouldn't recommend overdosing on it though. It's pretty awful.
No. I mean, friends of mine that I will say I used to imbibe, but it's been, let's see, my daughter's 25. It's been 26 years since I've imbibed in pot, but I never ingested. I always smoked.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easier. It doesn't last as long, which is great.
Yes, more controllable situation.
Oh man.
So but when we get into lethal drugs, whatever they are, I think we need to draw the lines. And are you willing to lose your spouse, your son, your father, or any loved one to a drug, and not have the person that was responsible, that sold it to them? That's the person that needs to be held responsible. I think for this reason. I'm all about forgiveness. I'm all about second chances. I've had second chances, third chances in my life. But when we're talking about somebody's life, that we need to be able to hold people that are the cause of our loved ones, of our brothers, of our sisters, and we're all tied together, of that they died as a result of what you gave them. Responsible. That's what I believe. I mean, and I don't mean, putting them to death. I mean that I believe that it will make people that are merchants of this chemical think twice about doing it and selling it.
I sure as hell hope they would think twice. I don't know. I'm a huge advocate of psilocybin. I think it's kind of weird that things like psilocybin were illegalized in the first place.
I tried that in the early 70s. It just made me puke. It's frozen stuff. I don't know.
It's weird because you're talking about like fentanyl or cocaine and how
those are more those are different kinds of drugs than psilocybin or pot. Because psilocybin and pot are both psychotropic.
Is pot still the highest tier federally legal?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been following that.
Yeah.
I just always thought that if somebody, I told friends of mine that grow it for medicinal uses and for whatever, I said, it's just like, or for like sale, I said, really, the worst thing you could have is the federal government to get involved in your business. Why not just decriminalize it and let it exist as a cottage industry?
Yeah. I mean, we might need to reverse
no taxes,
some other.
Nothing.
Yeah, there you go. Just let it do its thing. Well, I've heard that there's a like in this Eastern philosophy. What was it? No, maybe it was. What's that guy's name? He's that British guy that went and practiced Buddhism in Tibet early on. He's
George Harrison.
Well, that's actually exactly the same thing as George Harrison. Anyway, he was saying he was talking about this kind of controlled chaos.
I kind of feel like we've gotten some really good material this broadcast so far.
Yeah, man, we have that was after we talked a little bit on the phone, and I was kind of like,
I'm thinking, this is worth rebroadcasting.
Oh, it'll be rebroadcast, all right. Yeah, it'll be on Spotify.
You know why?
YouTube.
Because it's been honest, Casey. I appreciate you. You've got a great radio voice, and you almost got a good TV face.
My mentor said that. Yeah, he told me to kill the beard, and I was already feeling that, so it was like, all right, it's time to kill the beard. For me, he's just like, you need that. But yeah, I love talking earnestly. It's always been long form for me,
right?
So this is the perfect kind of thing for me. I don't like the little superficial. I'm terrible at small talk. I'm terrible at it. I'm just like, yeah, nice weather. It's like I know I'm doing it. I know it's bullshit, and it doesn't mean anything. I want to talk about the real stuff, and what I'm really interested in. And you're like somebody I know that knows a lot of things, and if you don't, or you at least have an opinion about it, and it's like a good bag of chips, and I'm just gonna keep eating it. I'm just gonna eat that chips, man.
So you got to come up and see Michael's show.
Yeah,
the Takeoff. Both you guys. Yeah, your engineer and you.
Yeah, this guy. Look at him. He's got the headphones and everything.
Hell, he's got sunglasses on.
I don't know. Those are the real thing. I think I've seen basketball players wear glasses like that.
No, these are my sports goggles. I play football and basketball for my high school.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah, this is an Eddyville guy.
So I almost don't want to admit this on air. But Dave Chappelle came to Portland.
Yeah? I did hear about it. I have friends that went. Did you go?
I bought floor tickets, second row back from Dave.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah. 6 seats.
You went?
Yeah, hell yes.
Dave's awesome. I love Dave.
He's evoked certain. Go ahead. I interrupted you. Sorry.
He's one of the. What was that movie? How High? Everybody in high school. Oh, so good. And then that's my first experience. Hilarious guy. And then finally seeing him as a comedian, it's so good.
Here's what's Dave, in some of his sets that he's done, And the one in Portland was great. He did a great. It was, I mean, if you were trying to cancel the guy, then it didn't stop selling seats because the people at Moda Center.
Do you think the canceling helps him? I think it helps him.
Every freaking seat in the house was sold to the nosebleed seats. Yeah. There were still, everybody was there. It's over 18,000 people.
My friends that went, they were kind of disappointed. And I'll tell you why. It's because they showed up late. They waited in line forever.
Right.
And they got there, and it wasn't a super long set, is what they said. It was I don't know, it was 30 minutes, 45 minutes?
35 to 45 minutes. 35 to 40 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, I mean, they didn't see the people before them. I mean,
I waited through, and they were warm up, and they did. I had my favorites, but I was waiting for Dave, like everybody else.
Well, it sounds like the good deal would have been to get there a little bit earlier and not get stuck in line forever. I mean, I don't know. I did want to go see Joe Rogan up there.
Oh, I would too.
He was up there.
I absolutely love his cast.
Yeah, and the funny thing about him, he inspired this. This is basically really formulated on his podcast, just because it's easy. It's like simple, and I'm just a simple guy. Like I don't.
No. That's just, I mean, Joe would love this issue because of me. And you.
He probably would. Sometimes I think about him, and it's like, well, who does he listen to?
Yeah.
Oh, who the heck does he listen to?
Salante.
Yeah. But the podcast it's something I've wanted to do for a really long time. That I just, because the Jeremy at the News Times allowed me to use this space.
Right.
Really is
this
what
could
made
be,
it happen.
as far as I'm concerned, this could be the actual savior of the paper.
Yeah, well, it could be. I think it realistically
just needs to get out there because people are dying for our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just got to get it to the right people.
Yeah. I mean, because you've been honest and I've been honest tonight, and that's what people. It's like a desert out there. For honesty, people want that, and that's what I'm all about. I mean, I'm just a wretched old sinner.
Wow, that sounds like a great band name.
And on another at another time.
Yeah.
So it's but people don't want it doesn't resonate with their heart. We're still human, and I believe that there's a spark in our heart that will be able to tell the measure of a conversation, whether it's honest or not.
I mean, there's just so much more to being able to tell whether it's the words, it's like the pauses and the body language and the tone. That's one thing. It's like I hate text.
I bared my soul to you tonight, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're people. We're emotions. We're so much more than.
I'm getting somebody ringing.
Party foul.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, are you getting it? It could be.
It is. It's.
It could be the wife.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. No more Irish whiskey. Bring home milk.
I like we have a chaperone. You have a chaperone. Well, we had God, I can't even remember his first name right now. Skidema. Paul Skidema. You don't use it, you lose it. He does the economic development here for the county.
Right.
And his wife works here, so she left some notes right here when he came in. Only 1 hour. Right when he got in. And we wanted more. It was not fair. It was not fair. Yeah, you would enjoy Paul's pod. Well, it was actually, a lot of it was about video games because he was a video game designer early on.
Oh, really?
Early on.
my and maybe we should leave with this. It's like my I never even imagined it. But my most favorite latest series, and I can get it on, I think it's Paramount produced, but it's on, I can get it on Prime Video, is Halo. Have you seen the
movie?
Series? No, the series.
Oh, it's a series. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
a series. I thought there was a movie.
Oh no! If you can get it, it's I think it's like 7 or 8 episodes, and they're going to have another season. It's awesome. It's
Okay.
really good.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
It
for
follows
sure.
the lore of the game series really well as well.
Does it?
Got to admit, I'm a fan of the Halo universe in general. I found myself attracted
I never
to it
even
throughout the
knew
years.
about it, man. But it's just like, so have you tuned in on the series?
Yeah, it was first released on the original Xbox way back when, and I've loved it ever since. I've played it since I was 5 years old.
Yeah, but have you seen the series though? Like
the show?
Yeah, the show.
I've seen a lot on YouTube through various clips of just dialogue, and I like what I see so far.
Oh, it's worth watching.
Yeah.
Because it's some of the actors involved. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I've actually been recently getting into the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
And of course, I mean, you got to know I'm a big fan.
Are you? Have you been watching it?
100%. Yeah, I just watched the latest last night.
I did too last night. I came back from John Day last night, and I'm like, okay.
After midnight, because I think it's released on Thursday after midnight.
Oh, it was good. It was so good. Like, I went and watched Jedi Johnny was on the second or third podcast. He's a buddy of mine, and I actually had a couple of Star Wars aficionados on so far. And we watched it in a sailboat up until episode through, I think it was just the first 2.
Yeah.
At that point. And he's like, it doesn't follow the lore. There's a few things, like, but I just don't know Star Wars that much.
You got to forgive the Star Wars lore, so to speak. That you're right. He's right.
I don't know that he doesn't like it though. I think that, maybe deep down he's still like
Ewan McGregor. I mean, how can you argue with that? He
that
can
guy,
make it
that
right.
guy. Bringing him back brought it back to life, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, did you watch The Mandalorian?
Yes, of course I did. I love The Mandalorian.
Oh my God, it was really good.
I'm sorry that I hope that they have another season of it.
Yeah. What did you see Boba Fett?
Of course.
And you saw how like you got one episode.
I keep Disney on my freaking TV just for these releases.
That's kind of the main thing for me too. Like, I love grew up with Disney, and I rarely watch the old movies anymore.
They bought all these franchises.
They did.
And then they've got some really because what they did is they bought the people that could write and produce them.
Yeah.
In a meaningful way for people like you and I.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm just like, I want more Obi-Wan, and I'm captured by it.
I hope that he gets more of his powers back, against that bitch,
Oh man,
that's after him.
I mean, it definitely
Salante.
It's Salante, man. Salante. Yeah, Star Wars is so good. Wait, so are we done, or can we?
We are at 2:22. So 2 hours and 22 minutes.
So we're not officially over. We have more time, but or how much longer we have you for?
Well, my wife said that I've got to stop drinking the Irish whiskey.
All right. Well,
it's because when because we've got a relatively large operation up there between the 2 restaurants.
Yeah.
And the brewery. But we're still ma and pa.
Yeah.
And so we try to make these getaways. And I know I don't look at it. If you're looking at me on the podcast or listening to me, I'm 67 years old. I could die at any time.
I mean,
a lot of my friends have.
Yeah.
But we were down and we planned these getaways together. This is important. You asked me about this earlier about how to stay together. We plan these little getaways together where we're just me and her, and so we went down to Bandon, Face Rock area, and there's an Irish pub down, ran by and owned by an Irishman in Bandon. And I don't. It's rare that I could get inebriated, but I did that night, one day. And I swear the sidewalk insulted my wife, and I went down. And I beat the shit out of that sidewalk.
That sidewalk was dead. Oh man!
So that was recently. So she, that was as far as she could remember that, I'd never been like that, and so that's why she told me tonight, as we were sitting here, enough of the, Irish.
Yeah, no more bad sidewalks. Yeah, no. We did have that homeless guy though. He was laying out in the street, ready to get run over.
That's tragic.
Yeah, he came in.
I could use the head.
Oh, copy that. Yeah, get in there.
We'll say goodbye.
So, God, it's been a super. It's a long cord. It's been a great podcast here with what an excellent guest.
Agreed.
Oh, I don't think I can drink a whole lot more of this. He's actually been pouring. I don't think he realized that this is a beer cup and I have whiskey, or I have. Are you supposed to mix the whiskey into the beer?
Well, the general rule of thumb is liquor before beer, you're in the clear, beer before liquor, and never been sicker.
Yeah, but how about mix them together and then you're jolly forever?
I like that. That sounds good too.
It's so good. And what is our time? Are people still listening, or are we just?
There's 2 people.
Heck yeah! We got Kathy and Clary.
Maybe.
Oh, it probably doesn't say. My girlfriend, I think she's probably out in Corvallis right now. Man, there's so much more I want to ask about, well, we just hit so many subjects. The economy was such a good one. I wanted to talk more about that even. It's so hard to keep some of these conversations sometimes. Keep them straight. You just jump around, and it's kind of like a lot of fun. As soon as you sit down in front of the microphone, you get the headphones on.
That's the joy of a good conversation in itself, though.
Yeah, it's true. And I know that's one of the main complaints from the podcast is oh, you can't stay on subject. Oh yeah, what'd you say?
I'm here now.
Finally, we only talked about you a million hours ago with your turtles. We talked about her turtles. She was in Hawaii and sleeping in a hammock most of the time. I would actually like to get a nice hammock. There's a whole version of camping, maybe / backpacking, where you just sleep in a hammock and not a tent, which could be pretty cool. It's just really cold in Oregon. We don't have a lot of that nice warm weather.
Midsummer, me and my buddies do that a lot at Moonshine, considering there's a few trees there that are just perfect for hammocks. So we all take a hammock out there, and I'll put one up, and I'll hammock camp out there.
That sounds like a good time. I'd like to try some of this hammock camping at this Moonshine.
Supposed to go there this weekend, actually, but...
Yeah, I don't know what the weather's going to be like.
Yeah, I heard it was supposed to rain more and more and
this
more
is
and more.
A really wet June. We had last summer was super dry. It was just in John Day, and they told me last year they didn't have rain from April to October.
That makes sense. The last time I went up to John Day was about then, and it was really low around there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of a long time to go without rain. But it is, I don't know, I think technically it might be a desert. I'm not entirely sure. Is that text? Is he getting text messages? Or are those?
I think it's a text message.
Yeah, I actually, as a videographer by trade, I have to silence my phone. There's just no way I can manage it.
I do the same thing.
I just can't have it on.
At the same time, I occasionally look at it because there's a few people.
Oh, you got to look at it. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind if it vibrates.
No, I turn on my Do Not Disturb so it doesn't vibrate, doesn't make noise.
Really? Nothing?
Yeah. I just occasionally look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been really good, though. I've really been enjoying this.
Liz says it's too cold for hammock camping in Oregon.
Well, when we say too cold in Oregon, what we really mean is the Oregon coast. Welcome back, Jerome.
Oh, I'm old. I've got to have a 2-hour break.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I often need to go.
You wear a chance?
I don't know what it is. Sometimes I just, especially coffee. Actually, no, coffee and beer both. I think that's normal for most people, but like more than my girlfriend and my other friends, it's like I gotta go, and it's like I'd rather just not be miserable and just have to hold it. I don't know. And I'm pretty sure I'm not dying of cancer or something because there's no other symptoms, and it's been like that way for a long time.
That's okay.
Your phone was going off while you were gone, by the way.
Oh my goodness! Was it ringing or tinkling?
Piano riff.
Okay.
Tinkling. Yeah, that's more of a tinkle, I'd say.
So that's been my hobby for the last couple of years. Was I studied music for 20 years from a very young youth. Ended up, playing around with, garage bands and studying with a real artist, Eddie Weed, who was an icon around Portland since his past many years. But it was really cool that when I'd have a lesson with him, he would write the music out.
Really?
Like this, yeah. A whole arrangement genius level. Yeah, amazing. So I started playing again after 30 some odd years.
I heard you playing on the phone the other day, and yeah, nice jazz. Very good. Like that's the kind I like to. That's the good. I mean, there's 1,000,001 types of jazz, though. My buddy Ron, he's been getting into all these diminished scales. Very jazzy thing type weird. Like the whole idea of a diminished scale is bizarre.
Well, when you're talking diminished, you're talking into a dark minor mode.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like happy and right.
Yeah.
But it still works, and it's weird how it works.
Oh, yeah. It works for blues, which is, and sometimes it's sad. And sometimes there's a blues that has redeeming qualities that makes you feel better because you feel sad, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose that's the whole blues thing. Maybe that's one. I don't really know the history of blues.
Oh well, right now I'm going back to the beginning. I'm taking on an old by absolute genius composer, Scott Joplin, Maple Leaf Rag, the ultimate of all ragtime pianos.
Maple Leaf. Yeah. I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've heard that.
So yeah, I'm doing that piece right now, working on it, and amazing. But I also been reading music and going through and doing variances on a cat named Junior Vance, which was from the 50s and 60s and absolutely genius pianist that helped define blues in its modern genre. As a keyboardist. Maybe a lot of people don't listen to him, but he played with some of the great bop pianists, and Eddie Weed was certainly one for Portland, was one of them. He played at the Jazz Quarry for 15 years, and then but at the Sea Hag, I'll have to promote the Sea Hag. We've had Tom Grant down there last fall.
Yeah,
who's from the fusion jazz era. That's a really an extraordinary talent in his own. You know,
Yeah.
Oregon Jazz Hall of Fame. We had him here, him and his bassist there at the Sea Hag for 2 nights. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, we got to get into the Sea Hag. Actually, I don't think I've actually been there since we did the Chowder series because every time I go, it's packed.
Well,
I told Clary,
you've got some pull there. You know, you can call me. You know, I mean, ownership what is the American Express says? Ownership membership has its privileges. Ownership has its privileges. You know?
I just never have my shit together. Like I'm always like, oh, what do we got? My girlfriend loves to plan, and I'm just like this spontaneous.
Don't you think she'd like to meet me and my wife?
Oh, I'm sure she would.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would. She's super social. She loves meeting people.
I'll give my wife big kudos. She's an extraordinary woman, and she's tickling me right now.
Well, she's really good on the. I got to see the chicken dance.
Oh yeah.
What I don't know what you call it when you do the glasses, the symbols,
Oh yeah, playing the bottles.
The bottles, that's what it is. And I didn't realize
when Clary it was funny working at the Sea Hag when she went back with Gracie after years and years of being away. She was working as a bartender. She said, Jerome, every night she'd have complaints, and she said, "Oh, the job, the bar manager job is open for Gracie. Do you think I should take it?" I said, "Well, honey, every night you come home and you complain about what everybody else is doing, you know, that you don't have any control over your environment there." I said, "Yes, I do." Because then you're the boss.
Yeah,
then
you're the boss. Yeah.
And she did, and Gracie recognized her talent.
Yeah.
And she promoted her to operations manager for 10 years before we bought it. You know.
Did you guys buy it before Gracie passed?
Yes. Oh, Gracie was so supportive of everything. She spent the next 5 years after we bought it coming there to the Sea Hag every Sunday to promote us and her book, which was about the Sea Hag.
Oh, that's so killer. My boss used to she used to come in here, Gracie, and he said that he used to wear a suit, and apparently she called him the Pope.
I've got my Pope of Depoe Bay right now.
Yeah, the Pope.
I call him Rick Beasley.
Oh my God, I got to get Rick on the podcast.
Oh my goodness,
I got to get Rick on the podcast. No, that guy's great. I met his daughter in the weirdest of circumstances. It was like this surfing for vets type like thing, and one of the ladies there was his daughter. Really,
I haven't met her.
Really nice lady. She had this picture. I have the picture of them. He's wearing this awesome hat. Eat, fuck, and skydive is what it said.
Oh, Rick is a character, Vietnam vet, and a skydiver extraordinaire during the time, and actually a journalist extraordinary in the Portland Metro.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he's a great writer. I mean, he definitely has his way with words, I suppose. I had a question for you, though.
What?
Do you have a hero? Who's your hero?
I have a hero. An earthly earth right now. Well, much to my many friends' dismay, I will say, because they always hate those people that are so successful that are just soft-spoken. Tom Brady.
The football player?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah?
100% behind him, yeah. And then let's see, one other of real people now. It'll come to me. I just think he's... I am struck by it was written by a woman about ballet dancing.
Yeah.
And it was the sentence, and struck by it. With discipline, there is freedom. In other words, the more I discipline to learn these moves, the more freedom I have to express myself.
Yeah.
Artistically. So, Tom Brady is one of my, and such a younger man than me, but I admire his poise. That's, in one word, his poise.
And he's not retired yet.
No, he was going to retire, and then he changed his mind.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, well, money. I mean, it's still kind of, you're still in it too. Like there's something to being alive. You're still in it.
And what's that tight end that he has?
Gronkowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the football guy right here. He knows.
I love him too.
Yeah,
It's like he is hinging his career based upon, if Tom wants to stay one more year, I'll stay one more.
Yeah, okay, there we go. There you go. Keep the team together.
Yeah, so I admire Tom Brady, and who else in the world do I admire right now? I would say internationally or American or anybody.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, anybody. I don't care if
All
they're
of the
alive.
above.
They don't have
All
to be
the
alive
above.
or they don't have to be real.
They don't have to be real.
Yeah.
Anything, any person ever.
Any person ever,
Yeah.
Ever. Conceptually.
conceptually. Oh, that's a tough one.
I mean, you don't have to come up with people that, or if it sounded like Tom Brady came up pretty quick, so he
Yeah.
must be
Popeye? I admire Popeye.
Popeye.
No, that's a good one right
Yeah,
there.
that is a good one actually. Look at that. I mean, yeah.
I
Like,
wish you'd just finish.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Rightfully so. Somebody who cones the sea
Here,
hag,
humble
Popeye.
guy, a seaman,
Yeah.
and got the anchor and the forearms, and I know because I had those forearms
Yeah.
going for me, when I was in the middle of it. Yeah. But I had the opportunity to meet the man who played him definitively, in my opinion.
No way.
Yes, I did.
What the hell was he like?
Oh fuck! Are you fucking kidding me? I'm upstairs in my little crow's nest.
Yeah.
And I get a call from a woman that was with Gracie for 20 years before, since she was in high school. That's my age right now. An absolute gem, Bonnie Chavez. She's got such a dry sense of humor. And so you wonder, when she would say something like this, you wondered how to take her. She called me in my office, and I just have an office just above the Sea Hag. And she said, "You'll never guess who I'm waiting on right now." Okay, I'll bite. Who are you waiting on? Robin Williams. And when she said that, I knew that she wasn't lying to me. So I said, "I'll be right down." And I went downstairs, and I swore in all my life that when I met somebody that had achieved this degree of fame and admiration, and who I did myself personally admire his work, that I wouldn't be a stupid idiot. But I became the person that I did not want to be.
Wait, Robin Williams?
Yeah.
He did Popeye?
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. I've heard him do it. He met Robin Williams?
Yeah.
What?
It was cool, man. So I went down there, and in the Sea Hag down the hall, you'll see the picture. He was surrounded by his entourage.
Yeah.
Like eight guys, I think it was. And what I didn't know later, I walked up to him, "Mr. Williams," I said, I'm so honored. I'm so pleased to meet you. I really love your work. Oh, thank you. And I gave him a couple T-shirts, and he got up and he went to the bathroom, and I kind of hovered over him, and by then some kids recognized him in the restaurant. They followed him.
Yeah.
And to me, this speaks of the kindest, best type of star.
Yeah.
They asked him for his autograph, and he signed everything and was just so cool with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, just didn't feel like he was bothered whatsoever.
Yeah.
And later I found out, and I sent some T-shirts home with him, I think I said. And later I found out that he was there. He was in the middle of a problem with crisis with his wife.
Oh, really?
That he'd fallen off the wagon after 20 years of being sober.
Oh, yeah.
And and so he ended up at a treatment program at Newburgh.
Oh, in Newburgh.
Yeah. And he had just finished it. And so some things made sense because as soon as I got the call from Bonnie, I called Rick Beasley.
Yeah.
I said, hey, look I don't want you to bother him in my restaurant. But as soon as he steps outside, he's fair game. Ask me.
Did he get him?
Yes. He got him and all of his entourage. And what he said at the time just then later made all perfect sense. He said, Rick said, Mr. Williams, he was real, and Rick can be so respectful. He said, Mr. Williams, I said, I'm just from the local paper. I'd love to get a shot from of you. And he said, yeah, that's fine. The same spirit. He said, well, sure, fine. But let's get the whole entourage in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he got all of his buddies in there, and Rick got the shot.
Oh, man.
And it sits in the Sea Hag hallway to this day. And later I saw him on Leno, and he recounted, kind of what he'd gone through. And then it all made perfect sense that when his wife said, you've got to get sober again. Now, in the end, they ended up breaking up.
Yeah.
But in the interim, he went to his entourage, I guess down there in San Fran, that they were always around him. And he told them, this is what he said, if I'm going through treatment program, so are you.
The whole entourage.
And so when Rick told me this later, and it didn't make any sense to me, but then after I'd heard the whole story, it did, that when he went to get the picture, he said, sure, yeah, get the picture, but let's get the whole class in here. So he got all of his guys. And I would love to be able to share that photo with all the guys that were with him that day, because I'm sure they don't have another photo like it, and that would be at no cost.
Yeah.
Just for, because Robin Williams was a true gentleman and a great star. Yeah.
I've never heard any stories like that about him being an a-hole at any other time.
No.
It's just kind of weird to think about too, like what being a star and all that does to you.
Well, I followed him from, when they told me, what was that, the stupid series that he did about being the alien? Mork and Mindy.
Mork and Mindy. That was way early on.
I
forgot the name of it. Yeah, Mork and Mindy. That was super early. Was that the first?
Yeah, that was where he really came out.
Yeah.
I mean, he was already recognized as a stand-up, but that was his first recognition. Yeah.
Yeah, Mork and Mindy. Robin Williams, that guy's going to be missed. I think we're pretty close.
12 minutes.
Well, I think we ought to wind it up with one more question.
What is the question?
The last question. It's like The Last Samurai.
Oh, no. Tom Cruise? No, I'm not down with that.
We only got, we got to cut it like a couple minutes before. It's going to cut us off, but all right, what got you into politics?
I think I alluded to it earlier that so many people, most all people don't, they want somebody to represent them and their views. And they're not able to do it for themselves. And on multiple times I have stepped up to be that voice. So that's, and that first time I told you about, or way back 2.5 hours ago, I guess now, that I was that voice for the industry that I was involved in. That completely ignorant of the fact that I could make a difference until later I did make a difference, as well as the guys that were with me. And they just happen to be guys. It's a resolute voice that somebody is able to stand up and represent your views and speak for you, you know. And I think that's why I stepped up, is because I believe that there's so many, I believe in the silent majority out there, that there are so many people out there that don't believe that they have a voice for them to express the way they feel and believe. And that's why I've stepped up in a kind of a micromanagement way on multiple occasions to help people, and many times unsuccessful. I knew I was going to be unsuccessful because I knew it was going to find deaf ears. But the person that I helped, it didn't find deaf ears with them. They were thankful that there was at least somebody that would step up for them in a dire circumstance. And a couple of times it was over fishery permits that they believed that they should be able to have, and the government said, no, you can't. And I said, yeah, I think you can if you wanted to. But I'm really, thinking that you don't want to, but it's not because you can't. So let me tell you why you should. And usually unsuccessful, but that doesn't mean that you stop trying. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Well, Jerome, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on the podcast, and this has just been awesome, man. And I feel like I still have so much more I want to ask you, so much more I want to learn. So
you're two.
I'm 2-2.
My wife already cut us off. Let's get a picture of that. Yeah, it's my wife cut us off there.
That's a healthy cutoff mark right there.
And this is my gift to you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be reposting this on Spotify and YouTube, and we're gonna clip it. We're gonna find some good clips. I've been terrible about getting clips out. It's like a third job.
You got your engineer back there,
Oh, he's too busy playing football.
Basketball right now.
Basketball. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week. I can't remember who the guest is right now. Actually, I think I know who it is. I believe it's Rand Bishop, I think, is next week. Yeah, he's a musician.
Respect that.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I believe it's going to be Rand Bishop. So tune in next week, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
I thought there was some thick stuff there.
Talk Monster Podcast.
What did you guys think?
Loved it.